And so good morning. If you don't know me, I'm Reverend Elisha Christopher. I'm the spiritual director and senior minister of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Santa Cruz. I do use they, them pronouns. My ancestors come to us from all over the world. Those that we know immigrated to this country came here from Ireland, Scotland, Austria, and Holland. I do have ancestors indigenous to the Americas as well. And I am calling in my teachers, now ancestors, Dr. Jean Houston and Reverend Grace Lovejoy, who are standing behind me and living in me. I also want to begin this morning before we go into our discussion for the day. I also want to let us know, for those of us who've been members of this community for many years, you may know of Bob Vasconcelos. Bob and Diane have been members of this CSL community for decades. And I just got word yesterday that Bob made his transition yesterday, or I believe yesterday morning. And so we just want to honor Bob's transition and lift him up into that ever-expanding life. And normally we light a candle, and I was just got this word earlier this morning, so I'm going to ring the bell 3 times. Normally I would light a candle to recognize this idea that the light of who we are is the infinite truth of who we are. The light, the spark of the individual is what we get to know. The body is the thing that carries that spark. And so I'm going to ring this bell 3 times just to acknowledge that the vibration and the energy of Bob continues to resound in all that he loved and all that loved him, and know that his energy continues out into the universe. And so let us just breathe together as we lift up our friend Bob Vasconcelos into the infinite. And I speak these words of Ernest Holmes first to remind us that we believe in the immortality, the eternality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. And so let's take another breath together and let it go. I also want to begin with one more acknowledgement before we continue. Today's Father's Day. Do we have any fathers in the house? Anyone who's a dad? Can all the fathers stand up who are here? And if you're a foster father or you've had to father someone or step up, can we just give an acknowledgement to these fathers in our midst? And stay standing in community. If we could just, if you would stay standing for just a moment, we want to send you some love. Rub your hands together, folks. You're going to build up a little energy. And then just turn to one of these father figures in the room and point your hands to them as we say, beloved. Thank you for your contribution to the stewarding of life. Thank you for being a good representation of the divine masculine in human form. We see you. We thank you. We appreciate you. Namaste. Thank you. There's a lot happening in this particular moment. It's Father's Day. It's summer solstice. Juneteenth was just on Friday. It's Pride Month. 4th of July is right around the corner. it's a time of great vibrancy, right? Summer solstice is about that moment of the year when the light shines the brightest, where the dark nights are the shortest, right? It's that promise of the thriving moments of life when the light of who we are shines the brightest and we're in the fullness of that light expression. And, I want to bring the idea of Father's Day in for a moment to talk about that divine masculine principle. And I don't mean that about the principle that's embodied in physical human form, right? Ernest Holmes talks a lot in The Science of Mind about the masculine impulse of the universe and the feminine impulse of the universe. And that these principles, these powers live in each and every one of us. That the divine masculine and the divine feminine truly live in each and every person. And some of us may have a tendency of expressing one of those in different ways, but it lives in all of us. But Ernest Holmes talks about the father principle or the masculine impulse of the universe as that divine spark of creativity, as the force in the universe that seeds ideas, that force in the universe that is the impulse for creation. And I've been thinking about that idea of the divine impulse, that divine spark. We have this chant that Gitanjali's brought to us that we're going to be singing all throughout the summer of let actual light come shining. And I've been thinking a lot about this sort of overlay that's happening this month with Juneteenth, with Pride Month, with Solstice, with all of these reminders coming together. The divine impulse is that spark within each one of us that says, let your light shine on, right? When we have a desire to create, when we have a desire to be, when we want to heal, when we want to express ourselves, that still small voice from within says, let your light shine on. Let your light shine on, right? And then hopefully, if we live in a family or in a community or a nation or a world that celebrates us and uplifts us, when we have the inspiration to create or express ourselves in some way, hopefully, right, the community around us says, let your light shine on, bring it forth. But I think more often than not, in many of our lives and in the history of this nation and throughout the world, that divine impulse comes through individuals and says, I want to let my light shine on, and the world tries to squash it, right? The world puts conditions or false beliefs or stamps that truth down, and yet that impulse keeps coming forward. Let my light shine on, let my light shine on. And I was thinking about Juneteenth. I was at a Pride Juneteenth Shabbat over at Temple Bethel on Friday, and I was thinking about Juneteenth. The day in this country when the last enslaved Africans in Texas got the word of the Emancipation Proclamation and that slavery in its form had been ended. And it made me think about 400 plus years of institutionalized slavery, of African people being stolen from their nation, being brought over here, and being abused and enslaved and oppressed. And to know that for 400 years under that oppression, that spark lived in each person. Said, let your light shine on. Let your light shine on. And for 400 years, generation after generation, that spark was squashed, but yet it continued to be. It continued to be, right? And then people like Harriet Tubman and the abolitionists and Abraham Lincoln and the Union Army, right? Let your light shine on. Something began to rise up and say, bring that light forward, until finally that freedom bell rang across the nation and reached the last enslaved people in Texas. Let actual light come shining. right? The impulse was there, calling for freedom all along. Let your light shine on. Let your light shine on through the oppression, through the pain, through the turmoil, through the death, through the loss. Let your light shine on. Continue to live. Continue to fight. Continue to strive to be. Dream of freedom. And then one day, let actual light come shining. Right? Same when I think about Pride Month. Right? Think about the oppression and the erasure and the invisibilizing of queer people in our society. Right? It was just a few decades ago that it became not a diagnosable mental illness to be queer, to be trans, to be gay, to be lesbian. Right? There are people in this room who remember what it felt like to have to live in hiding. To have love for another person that lived inside of our soul that said, let your light shine on, let your love shine on. And yet the world said, no, that's not allowed. No, there's something wrong with that. No, we don't want to see it. But that love continued to live. Let your light shine on, let your light shine on, let your light shine on. And then one day at Stonewall in New York, the police raided a club where a lot of queer and trans, brown and black individuals were gathered to squash what was happening there. And they said, no more. Let actual light come shining. And the birth of Pride happened as a revolt, as people claiming their power and standing up. Right? And so that fight has been there, that let the light shine on, let your light shine on, let your light shine on, until finally let actual light come shining. And if those of us who were here at Pride Downtown Santa Cruz a couple weeks ago, what a joyous celebration. Right? The joy is the actual light. Right? And so I think about this idea that there's something within each one of us that is constantly seeking to be awakened. There's something within us that's constantly seeking to be expressed. And in whatever ways we're dampening that light or covering it up, no, that impulse is still there. That impulse to love, that impulse to create. As we look out into the world, right, look at all the things that are happening in the world. There is so much pain, there's so much oppression, there's so much war, there's so much genocide that's all happening all over the world, the degradation of the human, of the environment, of life itself. And yet within many of us, there's this impulse that says, let the light shine on, let the love awaken until actual light comes shining. And that actual light is the freedom. It's the end of war. It's the emergence of peace, right? It's that world that works for everyone that CSL says is our great, grand, and glorious vision. And God is calling us. and spirit, right? There's something within us that is calling, and sometimes we can hear it. And sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes we can't hear it, right? And so I want to remind us this Solstice Day, this Father's Day, this Juneteenth weekend, this Pride Month, this Summer Solstice Day. It's a lot. But all of that coming together at this moment to remember, to remind us to shine our light. To shine our light for each other, to be the light of the world. That is our call. In a time of great darkness, what the world needs is for each one of us to shine our light as brightly as we can. Right? One of the tools of oppression, of fascism, is to get us afraid, is to make us feel small, is to cause us to forget our connection to our greater and higher power. And so remember, folks, that if you feel like you are here to fight fascism or fight oppression or bring about a greater world or help bring more freedom into the world or help bring more love into the world, your job is to shine your light and to stop doing the things that we do that dampen our light. I know many of us have self-talk that runs around in our mind, and I don't know who put it there or where it came from. You can probably point to someone in your life who put it there, I'm sure. Right? But many of us have thoughts that run around in our mind that when we say, I'm going to wear that fabulous outfit, I'm going to sing that song, I'm going to create that art, I'm going to go to that protest, I'm going to fall in love with that person, I'm going to speak my truth. And then the voice says, oh yeah, but really, but what happens if, and then what if they don't like you, and what if you mess up, or what if it's too much? God forbid we should be too much. I think many of us have lived our lives for way too long being not enough, thinking that we're not enough, telling ourselves we're supposed to play small in some way. And if we shut down our truth, if we bury our identities, if we allow the stories of the world to roll over us, we are diminishing the light of God. And we cannot allow that to be the way that the universe is happening as us. Our job is to shine, to be glorious, to be beautiful, to be brilliant, to be audacious and radical and fabulous. Right? I think that's one of the things that I've heard from so many folks after Reverend Grace's transition a couple weeks ago was about how audacious and fabulous and creative and vibrant and fashionable and hilarious and sarcastic that this woman was. Right? And if you saw that in her, then let that example wake up in you. Learn to be audacious. Learn to be fabulous. Learn to express yourself. Learn to speak truth where truth needs to be spoken. Because our job is to shine. And there's a whole lot happening out there in the world that can really consume our awareness. And a thought came into me this morning that is the world shaping you, or are you shaping the world? When I take in all the things that are happening, when I look at the news, when I pay attention to the issues, does it all start to shape me in a way that causes me to crumble, to fear, to feel small, to go inside of myself, to, do we become overwhelmed by all of the war and the hatred and the degradation and all that's happening in the world? And does that start to shape our internal feelingscape? Or do we go in, court the light, be the presence, be the power, be the justice, be the good, and then we become the presence that shapes the world around us? We can either be at the effect of what's going on, or we can be the cause of what's going on. And I personally want to live as a causative presence in the world. We can be causative and we can be positive. Right? That's our job, is to be a positive cause for good in the world. That's our job. To realize that our attention, that our thoughts, that our feelings are shaping reality. That each one of our consciousness is the consciousness of God. That every thought we think directs the universe. Every choice we make creates something. And there's a whole lot of people that we interact with each and every day who feel like they are consumed by the darkness of the world and just need a little bit of light to shine upon them. And so let's make that our role. Our job in the world is just to be those little points of light. Because we have no idea the impact that a single smile or a gratitude or an acknowledgement can make. Especially when it's those passing moments, whether you're someone at the grocery store or a gas station or as you're going about your life in the world. are we aware that our presence makes a difference? That we can shine light into places that we don't even know it's going. But the world needs our light. Our community needs our light. So let your light shine on. Let your light shine on. Let your light shine on. And then let actual light come shining. Take a deep breath. And let it go. If it's comfortable, close your eyes and take another deep breath in. And let it go. And I just want to invite us to breathe a little deeper into this moment. And as you breathe, drop down behind the flickering of light on the back of your eyelids and turn your attention inwards and drop in to the darkness behind the closed eyes. And imagine for a moment that you could drop down to the level of your molecules, your atoms, down to the quarks and sparks of existence, and realize that your very body, this very space we inhabit, it is made of light. Feel the field of light in which we exist. And breathe. And remember that light is the light of the one. That one is what I call God. Some of us may call it the universe itself, or spirit, or consciousness, or the beloved. But let us remember that our very nature, that the fabric of reality is made of light itself, and that light permeates absolutely everything, that light is very much absolutely everywhere and every when. God and only God, light and only light. And yet somehow all of that light, all of that infinite possibility, all that spiritual material then condenses through our attention, through our choices, through our impulse of creation to become each one of us. And so let us breathe into the realization that the light within us is simply and always waiting to shine into the world. And so that voice of spirit, that still small voice, whispers from the depth of who we are, let your light shine on. Let your light shine on. And then in every moment we are given the choice whether or not we let actual light come shining. By the way that we share our love, by the way that we speak our truth, by the way that we stand up for justice, by the way that we bring our power, our passion, and our presence and our creativity into the world, we let actual light come shining. And so I'm just grateful for this opportunity for us to come together as community and gather this collective light, to be in this overlapping field of awareness with each other where we are bathed in the love, in the music, in the truth, the opportunity to remember the truth of who we are. And so I'm grateful for this day, for this Solstice Day, for this Father's Day, for this Juneteenth weekend, for this Pride Month, that we take all of this energy and we remember that our true nature is freedom. We remember that our true nature is love. We remember that our true nature is to create. We remember that our true nature is to shine, shine, shine. And so we breathe in and we let go. Breathe in again and let it go. And together we breathe in again and we let actual light come shining. And so it is.